Multitasking is a real challenge, especially if you're a man. I don't know how you ladies do it. How you can keep several things going at the same. It's like juggling. I know how successful I would be in juggling, as in not at all. But when you're trying to multitask, doing things simultaneously that seem to be mutually exclusive, multitasking can become impossible. And this morning, the question that we ask God is this: you tell us to love, trust, and fear you. How is that compatible? Or, how are we supposed to do that? You tell us to do these things, and how can we do that? We sang before communion, "Trust and Obey." Great song. Very last verse says, "Never fear, only trust and obey." Well, right there, we're not supposed to fear, we are to trust, and yet you want us to do it all. How can that be? This morning, I want to take a look at that. And we begin by defining the terms. What does it mean to fear God? What does it mean to trust God? What does it mean to love God? We begin with that phrase, fear of the Lord. It's a very significant biblical phrase. The expressions fear of God or fear God, fear the Lord or fear of the Lord appear about 84 times in the Old and the New Testaments, mostly the Old Testament. There are other passages that say fear Him, referring to God. So probably upwards of 100 times in the Bible, we are told to fear God. In the book of Proverbs, it's a foundational concept. In Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 7, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." It's where it all starts. A few chapters later in Proverbs 9 verse 10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom." If we want to acquire wisdom and knowledge, we got to start with this idea of the fear of the Lord. Over in Ecclesiastes, many believe it was written by King Solomon. And at the end of that book, in chapter 12, he comes to the conclusion of the matter. In verse 13, "Now all has been heard, here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Fear of the Lord, something that is apparently very important for us to do. And you're saying, well, that's nice, but what does it mean? And I want to begin by what it doesn't mean. It does not mean that we live in cringing dread of the Lord. We're not constantly thinking, oh no, here comes God, I've had it. At any moment, He's going to zap me right out of existence. That's not what we mean by fear of the Lord. There might be a little bit of an element of that, but that's not the whole thing. Nor is the fear of the Lord a phobia, something that we live in constant terror. One resource puts it this way: it is that holy response to God by which the godly are inclined more and more to submit to imitate God. Yada, 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 right? Sounds like something out of a theology book. Another explained fear of the Lord as reverence for God. Okay. I think it's getting there, but I'll be honest, I think that word's a little weak. Think of these words from Jesus in Luke 12, verses 4 and 5. Jesus said this: "I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear him who after killing the body has power to throw you into hell." Yes, that's who you should fear. Now, if you substitute reverence for fear in that verse, it just doesn't have punch, does it? Now, I think that's just a really good dose of healthy fear, right? Remember a story from way back. Actually, I don't remember it. I just remember being told the story. My older brothers were about a block down the road playing with the friends of my mom's best friend. Lived about a block apart. And it was time for supper. Those of you that know my mom, her voice has a tendency to carry just a little bit. She steps out on the porch and says, "Bob and Ed, time to come home." And they immediately jumped up and ran home. And the father of the other family went to my mother and said, "How did you put the fear of God in those kids? We got to tell them 10 times and threaten them with death before they do what we want, you know." And, my mom said, well, they've learned if they don't obey the first time, they're in trouble. Yeah, that's not a bad thing. Now, I will tell you this. It's one thing when mom tells you to do something. It's another thing when dad tells you to do something, right? And God forbid you hear him call out your name and include your middle name. Oh, you've had it now. I think there's a little sense of that in the fear of God. But I really believe if you want to really capture what that phrase means, it is taking God seriously. Take God seriously. And the more that we take God seriously, we're going to find that we take ourselves a whole lot less seriously. When we see who God is and then who we are by comparison, we take him a lot more seriously. We take ourselves a lot less. Fear is often defined as an emotion, and sometimes I think that's accurate. But I think fear of the Lord is more than a feeling. Fear of the Lord is a choice. It's a decision that we make based on facts, the truth about God as we find in the Word. So it's a response to what we learn and what we know about God. But ultimately, it's a choice. Let's move on to trusting God. What does it mean to trust God? Trusting God is to place confidence in the intentions and integrity of another person. Trust within a relationship implies both belief and behavior. Perceiving that another person is trustworthy and placing yourself in a position of vulnerability with that person. All right, in English, right? Some of you have heard this before, but I would suggest that every single one of you right now is exercising faith. Not faith in God, faith in the seat you're sitting in. So what are you talking about? I'm seeing all of you sitting, and right now, if something were to happen and that pew were to suddenly collapse, you would be on the floor. And it would be all I could do not to laugh. Okay. You are putting all of your weight into that seat. Now, if I were to bring out some rickety old chair that looks like it was an original from 1850, and I would say, hey, come sit in this, you might look at it and think, they don't make them like they used to. But I'm still not so sure about that. And let's say that you did sit in that stool or that chair. My guess is that you would have your feet firmly planted on the ground, right? You'd put some of your weight on that chair, but you're going to make sure that if that thing falls out, you're not going to be on the floor and have people laugh at you. You don't trust that stool or that chair. But if it's something that looks nice and sturdy, sure, you're going to put your whole weight in. You might even lean back in it. That's what trust is. It's leaning on someone, it's relying on someone, and if they can't hold you up, you're going down. It's not hedging your bet so that if it doesn't work out, well, I'll have something else to go to. When we trust God, we're saying, God, if you can't hold me up, I've got nothing left. It's like when the disciples were asked by Jesus, after so many people had abandoned him, he said, Are you guys going to leave too? And Peter said, where else are we going to go? We believe that you are the Son of God. And if you're not, we're sunk. That's what it means to trust God. It's a childlike acceptance of God's plan for us. It's depending solely on Him to provide what we need. Now, that all sounds pretty simple, but just because something is simple doesn't make it easy. Jerry Bridges describes his own experience in this. He writes, "For many years in my own pilgrimage toward trusting God, and I am still far from the end of the journey, I was a prisoner of my feelings. I mistakenly thought that I could not trust God unless I felt like trusting Him, which I almost never do in the times of adversity. Now I am learning that trusting God is a matter of the will. It's not dependent upon my feelings. I choose to trust God, and my feelings will eventually follow." By the way, that's a good prescription for all of life. Choose to do the right thing, and the feelings will follow. If we wait until we feel like doing the right thing, we'll probably never do it. Trusting God is also a matter of knowledge. We must know that God is sovereign, wise, and loving. Having been exposed to a knowledge of the truth, we must then choose whether to believe it or to follow our feelings. We must say to God, I will trust you even though I don't feel like doing so. Now, I know some people would say, well, that's hypocrisy. No, it's not hypocrisy. It's being an adult. It's called growing up. I mean, how many of us only do what we feel like doing? That's the definition of a child. So, yeah, sometimes we need to do what we don't feel like doing, but we know it's the right thing to do. And, sure enough, feelings follow. I've shared before, there are a lot of people at the end of a sermon, I'll be at the back and they're going out. And I've had people say to me, I really did not feel like coming to church today. And that is always followed up by, but I'm sure glad I did. I have yet to hear anybody say, I didn't feel like coming to church today. I wish I'd have stayed in bed. Now, my guess is if somebody really felt that way, they wouldn't tell me. But I've never heard it. But it often is the case. You do the right thing, and then you feel good about it. So make the choice. The feelings will follow. Bridges goes on, trusting God does not mean we do not experience fear or pain. It means we believe that God has worked through the occasion of our fear and pain for our ultimate good. It means we recall scriptures regarding His sovereignty, wisdom, and goodness, and ask Him to use those truths to bring comfort and peace to our hearts. It means, above all, that we do not sin against God by allowing distrustful and hard thoughts about Him to sway our minds. Now, let me add something here. It does not mean that those thoughts don't come to mind. I don't know any Christian, I don't care how long they've been a believer or how close to God they are, don't occasionally have thoughts of doubt in their minds. John the Baptist did, of all people. He was unsure if Jesus was really the one. Those thoughts are not wrong. Those thoughts are not sin. Those thoughts are temptations. The sin comes in when we embrace them and we run with them. So don't beat yourself up if you are tempted and don't give in. Satan can put thoughts in our head. The question is, are we going to hang on to them? It'll often mean that we have to say, God, I don't understand, but I trust you. he concludes, trust is not a passive state of mind. It is a vigorous act of the soul by which we choose to lay hold of the promises of God and cling to them despite the fear that at times seems to overwhelm us. So, like the fear of the Lord, trusting God is a choice. Then we come to loving God. It's also one of the most important concepts in the Bible. Deuteronomy 6, verses 4 and 5 was considered the cornerstone of Israel's law. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You will love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and with all your strength. You want to understand what the Old Testament law is all about? There it is. Love the Lord your God. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment in all the law? There were plenty to choose from. He said, the greatest commandment is this: you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Everything you are, that's the greatest commandment. Second is much like it: love your neighbor as yourself. You want to understand the 10 Commandments? Love God, love each other. You want to understand the Old Testament? Love God, love each other. You want to understand the New Testament? Love God, love each other. It's the same thing. It's what we are called to do. And again, we say, okay, but what does it mean? Does it mean we have great swells of emotion race up and down our spine like a finger ripping up and down a piano keyboard? Is that what it means to love God? Does it mean to live with goosebumps on the back of our neck? Does it mean being filled at all times with warm, fuzzy feelings about God? No, that's not what loving God is. Any more than it's what it means to love someone else. Love is not a feeling, it is a choice. So by defining the terms, fearing God, trusting God, loving God, they all have this in common. While often considered to be emotions, they're really acts of the will. They are decisions that we make. So let's move on to demonstrating the traits. What's it look like in practical terms? And we'll go back to fearing God. It means to take God seriously. How many of you have ever read The Chronicles of Narnia? It's a series by C.S. Lewis. They were intended to be children's books to introduce young people to the concepts of the Christian faith. And in that series, there is a lion. His name is Aslan. And Aslan is the depiction of Christ. Well, these 4 children from our world enter into the world of Narnia, where there are talking animals and just all kinds of neat stuff. Kind of like a Christian Alice in Wonderland. Very Christian. And so the children are talking to Mr. Beaver. And Mr. Beaver talks about this lion named Aslan. And he's describing Aslan. And one of the children says, "Oh, you mean he's a tame lion?" To which Mr. Beaver says, "Oh, no. Aslan is not a tame lion. He's not safe. Who said anything about safe? He isn't safe, but he is good." I like that. If our God becomes a safe God, we're in trouble. If our God becomes so predictable that we know exactly what he's going to do, and maybe we can even manipulate him a little bit to do things our way, that's not a God worth serving. We need to remember that our God is the God who created the heavens and the earth. He is the God who keeps it all going, and if he for one moment decided, "I don't want to do this anymore," nothing would live. He is the God that one day will judge every person who has ever lived on this earth. He is the one who said in Isaiah 46:9, "Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God and there is no other. I am God, there is none like me. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please." That's the God I serve. I got to admit, I chuckle sometimes when I hear guys in the pulpit say, oh, if you do that, you're going to tie God's hands. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd love to see somebody tying the hands of God. And number one, he doesn't have hands. Number two, who would do that? We can't tie God's hands. He'll do whatever he wants. And there isn't anybody here who can stand up against him. He is God. He is the Almighty God. He is the all-present God. He's the all-knowing God. So fearing God means that when he tells us to do something, we do it. When he says don't do something, we don't do it. We don't sit around and think about it. We don't try to negotiate. We don't say, maybe later. You remember what it was like when you were little, right? You were told to do something. Think of another story. This is my brother Ed, who's now with the Lord. His daughter Leah was, I don't know if she was she would have been maybe 2. And we're all sitting around talking, and Leah stands up in her high chair. And Ed just kind of sees it out of the corner of his eye, and he says, sit down. Leah looked at him. She ain't sitting down. A few seconds later, he says, sit down! And boom, she sat down. And then he followed that with this line that I'll never forget. Who do you think's talking to you, your mother? Now, there's a little bit of that fear of God that we need to have with God. That when he says do something, we do it. We don't talk back, we don't question it, we don't stall, we don't delay, we do it. He says don't do something, we're not even going to get close to it. That's a good, healthy dose of the fear of the Lord. We take him seriously. We realize that I am not the measure of all things. I am being measured. It's not all about me. We take him seriously. You say, well, how am I supposed to trust and love a God that I fear? Well, go back to Mr. Beaver's description. He's not a tame God, but he is good. He is trustworthy. And we can love God even though there's a little bit of a sense of, I better do what he says. I loved my dad, but growing up, I was afraid. But it was a healthy fear. I wasn't afraid that he was going to abuse me or that he was going to kill me, although sometimes I wondered. But you can still love and trust someone that you greatly respect and you take seriously. Trusting God. It's a choice. Honestly, it's a series of choices. Here's just a few of the choices we make when we trust God. Placing God first in our life. Psalm 31:6 says, I hate those who cling to worthless idols. As for me, I trust in the Lord. Trusting God means choosing to believe his word. 2 Samuel 7:28 says, Sovereign Lord, you are God. Your covenant is trustworthy. You have promised these good things to your servant. It's choosing to believe his word. Trusting God means believing that he loves you. Psalm 13:5 says, I trust in your unfailing love. My heart rejoices in your salvation. Trusting God is giving up your own way. Psalm 143:8 says, Let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. Psalm 25 says that trusting God is placing our hope in him. In you, O Lord, I put my trust. I trust in you. Do not let me be put to shame, nor let my enemies triumph over me. No one who hopes in you will ever be put to shame, but shame comes on those who are treacherous without a cause. Trusting God means committing your plans to him. Psalm 37:5 says, Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will do this. And then trusting God means not counting on our own abilities. Psalm 44, beginning in verse 6, I put no trust in my bow. My sword does not bring me victory. But you give us victory over our enemies. You put our adversaries to shame. In God we make our boast all day long, and we will praise your name forever. I'm not trusting what I can do. I'm not trusting my abilities or my experience or my expertise. I'm trusting in Him. That's how we demonstrate our trust in God. And finally, loving God. Again, it's all about the choices that we make. And in a word, that choice is obedience. I want to go back to the Gospel of John, where Jesus is speaking to his disciples. Go back to chapter 14. Down in verse 15, Jesus says this, if you love me, you will obey what I command. Do we need to explain that one? Pretty simple, isn't it? If you love me, you will obey what I command. Down in verse 21, whoever has my commands and obeys me, he is the one who loves me. He who loves me will be loved by my Father, and I too will love him and show myself to him. Pretty simple, right? Verse 23, Jesus replied, if anyone loves me, he will obey my teaching. My Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our home with him. Verse 24, he who does not love me will not obey my teaching. These words you hear are not my own, they belong to the Father who sent me. Why do you think we sang all 5 verses of trust and obey? Because we got to sing trust and obey 15 times. How important is it? In fact, I would just alter it a little bit, though it wouldn't fit the melody. To trust is to obey. I believe God would say to every single one of us, don't tell me you trust me if you don't obey me. Don't tell me you love me if you don't do what I say. Don't say that you fear me, you take me seriously, if you're not willing to obey my commands. In fact, Jesus did say at one point to his disciples, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and you don't do what I say? To which the disciples replied, if they didn't say it out loud, they had to think about it. Ow! That hurts. But I think every one of us need to be told that every once in a while. Why do you call me Lord and you don't do what I say? Why do you say you believe in me and you don't obey me? Why do you say you love me and you keep doing things that grieve my heart? Why do you say you take me seriously when you obviously don't? You might say it, but you aren't living it. It's the choices that we make. Now, a lot of people really don't understand the love that God has for us. They think that, if I'm going to love God, it means He's going to send me to, some third world country doing stuff I hate doing, right? Where did we get that concept of God? I mean, do you see that in the Bible? God's up in heaven saying, what's the worst thing that I can make them do? That's not God. But I hear people in pulpits like this, preachers, missionaries. I had a Bible college professor. He went on about, oh God, I'll go anywhere but here. And sure enough, God sent him there. Oh God, I'll go anywhere, just don't send me here. Sure enough, that's where God sent him. Seriously? Is that a God we trust? Is that a God we love? Is that a God we even take seriously? That's not the God of the Bible. In fact, Jesus said in John 15:11, these things I have spoken to you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy may be full. Many of us grew up hearing people say, or at least they acted like, your spirituality could be measured by the droop of the ends of your mouth. The more solemn you are, the more spiritual you are. Don't you dare laugh in church. This is the house of God. Right? Seriously? You don't think Jesus laughed? Traveling around with them 12 knuckleheads, I'm sure he was laughing all the time. Think of the things that God has done. There's so many things in the Bible that God has to have a sense of humor. And if we truly believe God is who he says he is, we can trust him. We can love him, even as we are taking him very seriously. If you want to love God, obey him. That's how we demonstrate our love for him. We don't do it perfectly. And please don't mistake what I'm saying that, you got to do it all right or it's not good enough. Our Christianity is never based on how good we are. Even once we're saved, it's not based on how well we keep the rules. It's all based on God's grace. It's all about his goodness. But what is the direction of our heart? Do we truly want to do what God would have us do? Or are we just playing a game? In the final analysis, fearing God, trusting God, loving God, they're all motives for obeying God. We obey because we take him seriously. We obey because we really believe that his way is best. We obey because we love him supremely. We want to please him. These three kept in balance will keep us from extremes, like legalism, or emotionalism, or having ulterior motives. Rather than seeing them as mutually exclusive, we should see fear, trust, and love for God as being mutually effective. And it all comes down to doing what he says.